What is up, you guys? Matt McKeever here, and so by massive popular demand, Kasey's back. And so I'm really excited. Actually, Kasey's going to break down for us. He used to own this property. He no longer even owns the property, but he's going to explain to us why he sold this property and what he did with the proceeds. So first of all, Kasey, thank you so much.
No problem.
Everyone's just been loving everything you did. So.
I don't know why, because like seriously, I'm just a short little Chinese guy, like 5'2" on a good day. Yeah, not very pretty looking either. So I don't know why the hits or the views are so high. But let me give you a quick little rundown. I started in 2003. There's a new newspaper article that I forwarded over to Matt. 2003, Global Mail did a quick little snapshot on me. So I started with a triplex downtown Toronto, 197,500. I can rhyme these off real quick. Dundas and Bloor, 896 Dundas Street, Old Chinatown, and then I bought two more properties over at in London because we looked at the value. So it was 70 Chapman. I'll rhyme these off. Yeah. Unit 18, 1437 Wonderland Road, near Wonderland and Sarnia. I bought that for 90.
Exact building.
Yeah, 98,500. I put 10% down, so $9,850 is at 10% down, and then finance the rest. Downtown Toronto property, 896 Dundas. I bought that for 197,500. If I'm talking too fast, you can.
They can slow it down.
You guys can slow it down. So I bought that. There's a triplex for $197,500. I put down about $27,000 in rentals and upgraded the whole. Well, tried to upgrade it, and then that was cash flowing pretty nicely. It was the gross rent, gross, $24,55 per month. And then I hit that London, and then the Chapman Court was $135,500. Yeah, $135,000 even. Excuse me. So I bought that, and then we hit REIN, and then they said about the top 10 towns. Kitchener-Waterloo was on the top, probably 4 or 5, and then we just looked at it and we delved quickly into it. So on the big macro perspective, I look at what business to own and what to do. Then after that, there's geographic location. It could be Toronto. At that time it was Toronto, then London, then KWC, and so on and so forth. So going down that little funnel, that's what you try to do, and then you funnel it down all the way to, do you want to do rent-owns, single families, duplex, whatever, small, multifamily, and then bigger scale, 10 units or something bigger. This is a 4448 Chapel Street. So I bought this in 2004. 2003 is when I started. I bought that triplex, hit London, then I hit this, and I was like, this is pretty darn good. I'll tell you the price right now. Yeah. I bought it for $430,000. 10 units, okay?
Yeah.
So that's $43,000. I'm not gonna, like, the only two properties that have VTB on was this one and my 28 Elgin Street. Oh, okay. So these are the only two. The other ones, you always ask. Yeah. So you can tell your listeners you can ask. My kids always ask for ice cream at the end of dinner. Sometimes I don't give it, but when they keep on asking, I'm like, okay. Sometimes I give it, right? So you have to ask, right? So just ask, okay? Asking doesn't hurt. So I bought this for $430,000. I just walked down the street and up the street, and it's a pretty good location. There's a church there, elementary school over there. Courthouse is literally a 10-minute walk, maybe a 12-minute if you walk slow. But it's a great location. That's what you're looking for. I'm not looking for rough neighborhoods or things that's up and coming. I want it to be already there. Yeah. Okay. So $430,000. I put down this one. I put down 10%. Not the 12.5 like the 28 Elgin Street. I put down 10%. They let me 15% of 430, whatever that calculation you guys can do with that. That 15% of the purchase price is what I got that VTB. That rate was so low because I gave them several options. Again, I gave them several options. This is 2004, okay, mind you. So what I did was I said, hey, lend me whatever that 15%. Can you lend that to me on a simple interest, paid, I think it was quarterly, or paid quarterly, 3%. Okay, interest only to the end of the term. And basically, what you do is, for those, it was a 2-year term, and my financing with the bank was 2 years. So I can refi at that 2 years, take the money out from this, and then give it back to the vendors. Make sense? So the vendor, there's a VTB, vendor take back.
And so was this property on the MLS?
This one was.
Yeah.
Okay. So you can find deals on MLS. You can find it directly private. Usually the bigger ones, they're not going to be putting it on the market. It's because most of the landlords, they don't want it on the market. It scares the tenants, and then they leave. Okay. So you have to have good relations everywhere.
So what did your realtor say? Because a lot of realtors like simple deals, right? So the moment you're like, hey, I want to do a VTB, was your realtor on board for that, or was there pushback, or the seller's realtor, was there any pushback about that?
No, we just explained it.
Yeah.
That one, we had a cover letter, so you just explain it.
Yeah.
I don't even think we talked to them. Usually I like to talk to them, explain to them exactly what a VTB is. And this one, cover letter, it was, again, 3 options, three offers, excuse me. So 3 offers for this property. High, on par, so whatever they're asking, and just a little bit below, maybe a cash deal or whatever. Okay.
And so usually that high offers the VTB one?
Yeah. So you can say, hey, you're asking $430, I'll give you $450. Right? So Matt's pretty smart. He'll show them the amortization. He'll show them the bump up. That's smart. Do that, right? So it gives them several options. They're gonna look at something that has more options than just one single number, right? So give them more options.
Yeah. That's huge. And so you ended up selling this property?
Yeah, I sold this one to get my other to get my 65 unit. So we'll see that after. That's in Cambridge.
Guys, real investors, real people, real streets, real buildings, real life.
Real garbage too.
Real garbage. Well, real recycling, that's nice.
Okay, so let's, going back to this. So bought this in 2004. What I was looking for was a good street, something that it's not in a rough neighborhood, because I don't want that. It's a headache. So I walked up and down the street, and it was a good neighborhood, solid building. That time I just got a home inspector. Because I didn't know all these. I had to get a PNG. The bank actually, when I got the bigger ones, the bank actually say, hey, I need a PNG, a stamp on this, and a whole bunch of other contractors. So your plumbers, electricians, environmental, things like that. I think we did an environmental for this one, but it was just a regular house building inspector. So what I was looking for this was structurally sound, nothing major in terms of electrical and plumbing. When we did that, I didn't even scope the lines for these. So it looked pretty good. There's that value add, as I mentioned, that the rents can go up. I didn't know how much to do the renovations now, so I don't over renovate. This one I may have over renovated some of them, but not all of them. A lot of the tenants were just long term. So what I mean by this is when we take a look at the numbers, we bought for $430,000. Usually the expense ratio, I'll give a quick snapshot, high level, it's about 40% of gross rent at the time, okay, whenever you buy. So it's 430, 40% of that usually is overall expenses. So that includes everything, okay? So your insurance, R&M, what else? Taxes, property taxes, all that. All the utilities, so you have your, except for hydro, so you have your water, gas, and so on and so forth. So you have all of that. So that's what you're looking for, usually about 40%. Anything above that, it's not as efficient, okay? So that's what we're looking for. And then you can drive up that rent. Don't over renovate, don't overspend, okay, on your renovations. So be very strategic on that. What I mean by that is that if all these houses around this street are just doing from like a countertops, just a regular sink, single handle lever, mowing single handle lever, painting and so on and so forth, you're not putting granite countertops, okay? You're not putting gold faucets, because the building doesn't call for that. Your tenants are not gonna, you're not gonna get the better rent, the higher rent. Okay, so just don't over renovate. So when I was looking at this, everything seemed to be pretty good, solid building. It was actually a brick, stucco, and stucco. I had some problems with this as well, but that's going in property management. I had my boiler breakdown, and but insurance paid for that. But overall, a very solid building. And I didn't want to sell this building to get my 28 Elgin Street, as I mentioned. So I had essentially money here. It was 2013 when I bought Elgin. Okay. So I had this in 2004. So whatever that time period, I held it. And I sold it for about $850,000. And my mortgage is probably about $160,000, $170,000. So I had some built up equity. My debt was paid down, and I could have used it for my Elgin Street, but I didn't, right? So I rather raise that money because I didn't want to. This was going to be for retirement, right? So rents were about, when we're looking at it, it was about $600 to about $700. $600 for the ones, 1 bedrooms,
Yeah.
700 for the 2 bedrooms. Okay, so if you just multiply that out, 8 1 bedrooms and 2 2 bedrooms, that makes up 10 units. And you can just multiply that out, and that's your rent minus your expenses. You can do that calculation. I just don't remember it right now. And then, yeah, that's obviously the cash flow, if you can see that. And then it actually goes up over time.
Yeah. So how do you make the decision between like selling or trying to refinance just to get access to that cash?
Good question. Because sometimes if you refinance, you're not able to get refinance high enough. Make sense?
Yeah.
Because the building doesn't support that new value. All right. So let's just say I bought it for $430. My mortgage is at $170,000. Now I want to refinance up to $800. Okay, or even $1 million. They're not going to give that to me because it's based on that income, how much that building is generating, right? So if it's not generating a lot, let's just say my tenants, some of my old tenants been there for a while, and it's only $700 or maybe $750. I can't get the full value of that $1 million. Okay, because now they're only going to give me up to $600,000 or $700,000. So for me to get access to the bulk of that money is to sell. So that's why there's a question on the comments. They're saying, why did the person sell? Well, this is the reason, because I was selling to upgrade. Yeah. Sometimes you have to sell a few to get the bigger ones. So I always want to hold. I never want to sell. Of course, like you're making money. That's the goose that's laying the golden egg, and you never want to sell. But sometimes you actually do have to upgrade.
Well, I think one question I know the audience is probably going to ask is any guesses on what the market value is of this property today?
This property?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's probably, I'm guessing it's about $120,000 per unit, depending on the rent. I don't know what the rent is, but let's just say it's about $1,000 to $1,000 for 1 bedroom, $1,000. 2 bedrooms about $1,200. I'm not sure what the cap rate is, and I'm sure if he like offloaded the hydro, okay, so that will play a part on that price. So let's just say it's about 1.2 million. Okay, usually when you go down in unit size, the value goes up. Okay, so a triplex might be 200,000 per unit. So if you look at Hamilton, KWC, a triplex is about 600,000, 700,000. The more units that you get, usually the price value goes down per unit. Okay, so I'm guessing this is like 1.2. Yeah, if I held it for another 2 years, I could have got 400,000, right? But I went to buy my 65 unit in Cambridge using this money, right? I just couldn't find the investors at that time. So that's a reason why owners do sell sometimes.
And what's the difference between like selling a multi-unit property and a single-family house?
What's the difference?
Yeah.
What do you mean by that?
Is there much difference, like when you're going to sell a 10-unit property versus like longer closing times, or?
Yeah, a smaller pool of purchasers. So these buyers are going to be a lot smaller. They're not your regular, investors that's buying a duplex or triplex. Now, your pool gets a little bit smaller. So not too many people want to buy a $1.4 million property in KWC. Right? It might be expensive. Like in this neighborhood, it could be $300,000, $400,000 for a single-family home. They don't want that. That step up could be quite big, depending on your area, right? I bought the 65 unit in Cambridge, and that was for $7 million. So again, it gets smaller. This gentleman, Mike, Mr. Audi in London, same thing. He touched upon a good point, is that your pool of people buying single-family homes is high. Then when you get down to the 20 to, let's say, I like to say about 30 to 80 units, it gets smaller, okay? The smaller mom and pop, they don't want to get into that because it's too expensive. Then the bigger boys, your Cap REITs out there, your Skyline, they don't want to get into that. It's because it's too small for them. They can't scale it. The 30 units, they would have to get a property manager of that scale, like a Cap REIT. They're the biggest landlords in Canada. They would have to manage. One manager should be managing about 150 to 200 units. It should be about 200 units for them to be able to manage it and pay a property manager that proper rate. So that lull in that market of 30 to 80, it's beneficial for us as small-time landlords, right? So buying a 30 unit, an 80 unit, it's the competition is a lot lower. But yeah, when I'm taking a look at this, and I was taking a look at, I couldn't get a superintendent. So actually, I always do so here's a little nugget for you guys, is that I walked over to the church, Bethany Church, right here. And I said, hey, I just knocked on the door. It's like, whatever, it's on a weekday. Who manages, who maintains your church, right? And it was this person, Dave Voisin, said, hey, Dave, can you manage my building? He goes, okay, let me go and take a look at it. So that's how I get my trade sometimes, is that you have to be creative. You walk around and talk to people. I always go to the closest convenience store, Tim Hortons, and I ask, who does your landscaping? Who does your snow removal? Because if they're doing it there, they might come by and swing by in my 10-unit building. And that's how I find my trades, because you're not going to get a trade that's going, whatever, 20 miles just to come to service your building. So find people that's close by that's doing work already.
That's actually a great tip. I've never done that before.
Yeah, so that's what I do. I just go around, and if there's a small apartment building, same thing. I actually go and, introduce yourself. Say, hey, I own this building. Go to their supers, because they may want a side job, right? Say, hey, did you want to do this? It's a perfect way. They want a little bit more income. They can do the work, right? And it's actually better for them because they just walk over, right?
And so before you bought this property, how many did you look at? Like, were you placing tons of offers, or was this one of the? This
one wasn't a lot. We didn't take a look at like a lot of multifamilies. It just came sort of on my radar. Actually came on my wife. She does the, she will sift through all the deals. But the first one, the first triplex, we actually looked through about 300. We walked through 100. We were like, we hustled. We make sure that we knew what we were getting into. So we actually stepped into 100 properties. It was a good friend that, an agent in Toronto that actually kept, it's like, these kids are crazy, right? Walking through 100. Sean Routbart, and he's the agent, and walked through 100 of them. Very loyal guy. Because we actually interviewed agents. So he sat them on our couch and said, this is our criteria. This is what we're looking for. Can you meet our needs? And he was the only one that stuck by us, right? So that he doesn't specialize in multifamily, but sometimes you need a good agent that's loyal, that can actually do the work that you're supposed to, right?
Yeah. That's a great tip. I find it really interesting. You essentially approach it constantly like a business, where a lot of people have emotions creep in, where like, so do you think it's that because of your property management background, or just the way you've always thought?
I think it's just me. And my kids always, I always make fun of them. I don't have any feelings, right? When you're doing something like this, your feelings, put them aside. Just, what's the end result? What's the goal, right? It's like, and people start yelling at me. Like sometimes at a dinner table, there's a flood or whatever, right? And then I put it down and it goes, are you angry or any, like, they start yelling at you. I tell my kids, I got no feelings, right? You can't, right? So when you're done, right? If you lose money, if something's a flood, it's $2,000, you know what, it's just money. To be honest with you, it's just money. So your question is, do I take it like a business? I guess I do.
Yeah.
Right? You almost have to.
100%, yeah.
Yeah. So let's go. That's enough fluff. That's enough fluff.
Sounds good. Yeah, let's check out some properties.
Yeah.
Sounds good. Awesome, guys. We're going to check out some of Kasey's properties. In fact, we're going to see the property he sold this one for. So I'm pumped. You guys should be pumped too. Smash that like button, hit the subscribe button, and we'll see you in the next video.